Well, with that, welcome to each and every one of you. We really appreciate you joining us for tonight's installment of the Marriage Hour, which has been now officially named and coined, with me, Henry, and my beautiful wife, Lundy. Welcome to all of you. Tonight, we're talking about love languages, the exciting topic that's been running around for, I think, close on 30 years now. Since Dr. Gary Chapman released his book. So there's a lot of spins on that. There's a lot of views and ideas around that. And this is our take on it. Our real take on it. A bit out of the book, the bit out of the book of learning, the bit out of the book of life and so on. And so we carry on. But in order to understand love languages, we kind of need to go back and we need to understand why we chose the one that we love. Why did we get involved? Why when I first saw Lundy did I think, wow, I want to spend more time with her? And hopefully she felt the same about me. Actually, it took a bit of convincing. But we need to understand why we choose the one we love. And that's quite a topic to try and understand. You see, if you think back about when you first met your spouse, is you believed of each other that you two were perfect together. Your spouse was the perfect mate, perfect in every way, did no wrong, said no wrong, acted in absolutely every way that you needed them to act. I mean, we all remember those nights where you could stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning.
I remember those.
Yeah, last week. and not run out of things to say to each other and be so involved in each other's conversation.
What happened to you completing my sentences? You've stopped.
Yeah, because I don't get a sentence out. But yeah, so you've got those, the completing of the sentences, the whole holistic view of it. And no one can tell you anything about your spouse or at that point your girlfriend or your boyfriend or this person you met, because they are just perfect. All you're seeing is the good. What we need to do is we need to understand why that is. See, initially when we fall in love, we get this thing called the love drug. There's a lot more technical term to it, but it's actually a proven fact that certain hormones and certain chemicals are released in your brain, which causes you to go blind. Yeah, when they say
love is blind.
Love is blind, absolutely. So love is blind because you've got this drug that kind of fills your brain, it floods you. And it takes roughly 6 to 18 months to wear off. When that starts wearing off, then you start seeing the faults in each other.
The imperfections.
Yeah, let's call them imperfections. Those are nice things. Better than faults. Faults is such a negative word. Let's not use faults anymore. We'll use imperfections. When you start seeing those imperfections, then suddenly your eyes go wide open and you start thinking, who is this person? How could I ever have thought that of them or not thought that of them? Or how did I not see that?
Well, you're not the person I married.
Well, that too.
Yeah.
And so as time goes on, more and more of these things become very apparent to you. Because now that drug that allowed you to fall in love and get to a point where you are now in love, true love with the person that you're with, as opposed to a chemical balance. And that clearly was by God's design, because I think if we all saw each other's faults right from day one, there wouldn't be any marriages.
No.
Because then you'd be seeing everything that's wrong with the person before you had opportunity to fall in love with them. And we still have that when we, I don't know, when we read a book by a certain author, that drug kind of gets released because suddenly everything they say is absolute truth. until later on you read it again and you think to yourself, wow, okay, that's not quite how I understood it.
Watching movies.
Watching movies. Yeah.
Big one. Yeah.
So all these things, you have a different degree of this love drug that clouds your judgment because you kind of get infatuated, to use a simple term. Is infatuated a simple term?
Yeah, it is. Depends on how you look at it, but it is quite simple.
So this happens, and when we're choosing the one we are with, or the one that we have chosen, there's the reality that there's a subconscious, unintentional seeking of their characteristical traits. So I'm not aware why this person that I'm attracted to, why I'm so attracted to them. Because unconsciously, in my subconscious, there's something that they have that I want, that I'm craving.
Maybe I can just unpack my story that just popped up. So when I met Henry, I was very independent. I was mom and I was dad and I was all these things. Subconsciously, when I met Henry, what I saw was a strong person that had authority and that took authority. And I also saw him, if we want to get right down to the bare truth, is I saw him as somebody that could provide, as the true man would provide, as in terms of safety and physical food and a roof over my head and all those things that a woman needs, because I didn't have that. So what I subconsciously saw in Henry was that. And you saw something similar.
Yeah. In you, in Lundy, what I saw was someone that was very sure of herself, very independent, very strong, very self-sufficient almost.
So you didn't have to provide, which was
well, yeah, I wouldn't go as far as I didn't have to provide, but she wouldn't be totally dependent on me.
Yes. And I was looking for the dependence, and you were looking for the independence, which was like amazing. That was the two opposites. They say opposites attract. Well, hello. It was there.
So what we had was this seeking of each other because there were characteristical traits that I longed for, or that Lundy longed for, that subconsciously they needed it to heal or fulfill. I needed that trait in her to heal or fulfill a need in me. And when we first got together, it fulfilled that need. Because now I've got this. You see, I'm pretty sure we've mentioned this before, but just in context of the love languages, I'm going to talk about it again. If you look at us as people, when we are born whole. We are born perfectly. Just as Jesus was born perfectly as a baby, we are born complete with everything that God breathed into us, in that moment. But then life happens. These things happen that take chunks out of you. So if you imagine an apple, and every time something bad happens, someone takes a bite out of the apple, or takes a slice out of the apple. So you get disappointed.
Trauma.
Yeah, you have a trauma of some sort.
Somebody says something like you're not good enough.
Yeah.
Or you're useless. Another bite comes out.
You get broken down.
Yeah.
Sometimes even you get over, what's the word, when someone expects too much from you?
Over expectant.
Yeah. So all these things kind of take chunks out of our perfection that God created us in, because now we're in the world, and the world does that, and it just takes all of these things out of us. So now we grow up as adults, and we've got these chunks out of us, emotionally, subconsciously. We're not really aware of them 99% of the time. And we found this person that can now fill this empty hole that I've got, this piece that I'm missing, this slice that's been taken out of my apple. So I pursue that person because I want that slice. So I find that person and I find that slice because subconsciously, without me being aware, this is all unaware behavior of the brain, I'm expecting them to take me back to where I got hurt and fix me so that I can receive healing now. That's quite a thing. So let's use the example of Lundy, me seeking someone independent. I, without knowing it, want her to take me right back to where I lost a woman of independence. And then heal me there and fix me so that I can be fixed today. And the more she doesn't do that, the more irritated I get and the more I project onto her to try and get her to do that. But what mostly happens is when I'm projecting these things and when I'm trying to get her to take, she goes there, but she doesn't heal me there.
But bearing in mind what I needed, what I saw in you. What I saw in you is for you to give me the freedom so that I didn't need to be independent. So you were needing me to be independent and I was wanting to break free from the independence. So that caused a whole lot of issues. The other one is you needed to be trusted and my biggest wound was trust. So there's another one of those two things. So when you're talking about your spouse completing you or your spouse going there to heal you, there was a whole lot of stuff when we got married that we started uncovering. And if we didn't have these tools, it would have been a huge big problem.
Now, because we're not getting healing there, we get frustrated. We don't know why. Our spouse irritates us and they're not doing what they used to do. And then you get the old phrase of, we fell out of love. I just don't love her anymore. Or I just don't love him anymore. You know, these things, and I don't get the butterflies and I don't get my heart doesn't race anymore. We've fallen out of love. And in a sense, it's true. Because that love drug is now gone. So yes, in a way, you did fall out of love. But when that love drug is gone, that's when you need to start working at being in love. And being in love, yes, it's an emotion, but it's not so much an emotion as a doing word.
Love is a verb, it's a doing word, which brings us to the love languages.
Absolutely.
Which is why if you understand the love languages, how it can enrich and it can better your marriage. So having understood what Henry's just unpacked, let's begin unpacking the love languages. So what I want to do is I just want to take you through some theory behind the love languages before we actually get to unpacking each individual love language. So if we look at the 5 love languages, generally when you miss it, it's something that when you look at your specific love language, and at the end of the evening, what we'll do is we'll give you where you can actually do the test. It's something that you're not getting enough of, which is why it's become a big focal area for you. That's why that's your specific love language. And that's why we often say to people that we coach or we counsel is your love languages change. So it's almost a yearly thing that you need to go and look at. I mean, if I take Henry and I, when we first got together, we had the same love language, which was physical touch. Now, today, it's very different because physical touch for us is important, so we focus a lot on that. But there's other parts of the love languages that we don't, and then it changes. So do the love language test at least once a year. The way you show love is generally how you want to receive it. So if you notice your spouse, if, for example, Henry is forever giving me gifts, and that's not my love language, automatically that's a telltale sign that he likes gifts. It's actually not that way. Henry's is deeds of service. All right. Yeah. So if you want to be an FBI agent, CSI agent, and know what your spouse's love language is, so maybe now before you do the test is something exciting to do, is try and figure out what their love language is by the way they've been treating you or what they've been doing for you, and see if you're right when you do the test.
Yeah, because more often than not, I'll do what I most desire for my spouse to do for me. And that's a big telltale. And most of the time, which is what you'll get to, is that it's totally missed because I'm doing what I want for Lundy, and it's almost meaningless to her. She's like, that's nice. And I'm like, but really, I've done all this. You should be excited. You should be so over the moon. And she's like,
no,
yeah, that's cool.
No.
And that just frustrates me more because I miss it often.
We all do. I do too. So this is where the work comes in with growing your marriage, growing the love in your marriage. It's hard work. It is hard work. So be aware that the way you show love doesn't necessarily mean it's the same for your spouse, as Henry mentioned. So remember the example that Henry gave earlier on. I gave earlier on in terms of the gifts. So if, for example, gifts are important to me, but if I buy Henry gifts, he's not going to receive it as a token of love. You're going to see it as another gift, or something was just reminded me. We had a friends of ours where her love language was gifts.
Yes.
But sometimes we get it wrong. But I think we'll get to that when we
we'll
unpack
get to that.
When
yes,
we unpack
we'll
gifts.
Get to
Okay.
that. Hold that thought.
Hold that thought. Sorry, that just popped into my head. The next thing is we are not one-dimensional. We're actually two-dimensional. We've got more than one gift. Okay. So what you'll see when you do the test is you've got a primary gift and you've got a secondary gift.
Love language.
Love language. Sorry.
No, you're stuck on gifts.
I'm stuck on gifts.
Have I not given you enough gifts? Or what's
Clearly
the...
not.
I think she's hinting.
Maybe. Okay. Your love tank, we often hear about when our tanks get empty from love, and we often hear about that we can't give what we don't have. So it's up to your spouse to actually fill up your tank. But it's up to you to figure it out and for the spouse to tell them. It's that communication of, you're getting it a bit wrong. This is actually my love language, and this is how I expect it. So in terms of the gifts, gift giving is to understand how to give the gift, but we'll get back to that. You may be doing a whole lot of things, but you may be missing the language of your spouse, which we spoke about just now. And then love language is in essence how a person feels loved and how they receive love.
It's how they feel full. They feel like someone cares because they are being spoken to in that area. Let's simplify it. So with languages, forget about the love part and say, one of us speaks Portuguese, the other one speaks English, the other one speaks Russian, the other one speaks, and let's say Lundy speaks Portuguese and I speak English. All right. So me speaking to her in English is going to be, I'm going to miss the mark totally. It's not going to work.
I'm going to understand some, but I'm not going to understand the essence of what you're trying to say.
The same happens with the love languages. So if I'm not speaking the language which she understands, it's going to get lost. So I might be sharing and I might be feeling very good about myself that I'm getting all this stuff off my chest. But she's like, what are you even talking about?
What's with it?
What's this in English? I don't know what you're talking. All right. Now, love languages are exactly the same. Yes, it all sounds very logical, but there's more to it. There's an understanding that comes in it, and there's the effort that's required that if I'm speaking English and Lundy wants to hear Russian, that I need to make an effort to learn how to speak in Russian to her.
Sure, so I speak Portuguese and Russian.
Well, I don't know. You have two primary love languages. I mean, how many more do you want?
I choose one.
And then you've got English. So you just Oh, word,
Us
you
women
just
are
grab
complicated.
everything. Man.
Women are complicated.
You take everything. Leave some for me. Anyway, shall we jump into the love language?
And it's gifts first. You can start. I'll add in.
Gifts.
Yeah, I'll add in.
I really think Landy is trying to say something to me. If you guys are in agreement, let us know, because I think the gifts is really a button at the moment. Anyway, just a reminder as we get into this, I got reminded that if you do have questions, please pop them up. Let's go through it. We've got a bit of time in this session, so we do have the time to, in the session, answer some of your questions. But anyway, let's go straight into it. First language, love language, is that of gift. And how would you describe that?
Tangible symbols that reflect your thoughtfulness and your effort.
So in other words, it's not me stopping on the way or grabbing a bunch of flowers from the guy at the robot on my way home and say, yeah, I bought you flowers.
No.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
No.
Okay. It's it's thoughtful with effort. All right. It's knowing what your spouse likes receiving. If they are a gifts person, if that's their love language, it's what they like receiving. I know with Landy, she likes receiving gifts. It's not one of her primaries. We're making a joke of it. But it's not one of her primary love languages, but she likes receiving gifts, but she doesn't like gifts for the sake of gifts. She likes when the gift displays that you know who she is.
Yeah. Yes.
So, it makes it very difficult for me because I'm not very perceptive. Yeah, I'm the grab the flowers on the way home and shove it in her hand type of person. But it makes it more challenging because now I kind of need to explore and listen to things that she says, what she likes and what she would like to get and receive. And if you know me, I have a terrible memory, so I mostly forget all about them.
I give him hints. When I see something or if I like something, I go, hint, hint. But he forgets.
Yeah.
He does forget.
Yeah, I'm not very good.
But he gets it right most of the time. It might not be that specific thing, but he's come up with something else.
Yes. Like. Yeah. Anyway. So anyway, it is about putting a thought and effort into it. It can't just be a willy-nilly gift. The how? Simple things, man. Make birthdays and anniversaries special. It's not about the price tag. No. It's about the thought. Put some surprise in by bringing home Ferrero Rochers. I did that for a while and then she stopped eating them. So I gathered that those weren't his favorite anymore. You know what I mean? Things like that. Put thought into those gifts. And the interesting part is this also lines up to conflict situations. So when your spouse, when their primary love language is gifts and you've just had a conflict, the best way to smooth things over is to give them a small token of your love. And an apology note, their favorite chocolate. For those that are on diet, their favorite carrot. I don't know, but something that's thoughtful, small, that just says, hey, I'm sorry, and I still see you, and I still care about you.
Now, the conflict ones are quite good because if you, after a conflict, when you're speaking the person's love language, it makes it so much easier to navigate.
It cuts that fuse very quickly, that it doesn't keep sizzling. Yeah.
The next one, the second one is words of affirmation. And what is words of affirmation to you?
You would give me that one, eh?
Of course I would.
Okay. It's saying, so verbal, compliments that express your love and appreciation for your spouse. Okay? So it's me saying things that build up and grow. That build up and grow and motivate and enhance my spouse?
For me, words of affirmation are, you need to be your spouse's biggest fan.
Yeah.
All the time.
Be a bit of a bragger.
Be a bit of a bragger.
Yeah.
So brag about them, not only to them, but with other people. I mean, I take it in the roles last week when I spoke to the ladies, is the minute ladies get together, they automatically start gossiping, and it's always about a negative aspect of their husbands. And that is where you start bragging, because it will eventually, it will get back to them. It'll get back. So when we look at words of affirmation, it's about affirming who they are. And when you start affirming them, it's psychological. When you start saying something about your spouse, they'll want to do that more. So, yeah, I mean, call out the gold, speak positive, speak positive words over them. Even when there is some negativity, is speaking the positive. So speaking the opposite over them and to them. That is words of affirmation. When they're going through a tough time, you will know first is to speak that positivity and have interest and give that encouragement.
Tell them they can do it when they're sitting with a problem that they think they can't. But not just, hey, you can do it, man. I know you can. No, a bit more. Tell them that their skills and their ability and that special thing that they have will make them successful in what they're doing. You know, put a bit of thought into the words. It can't just be words that are thrown out of your mouth so that they can pick them up somewhere. It needs to be very thoughtful. It needs to be well put across. Put across in its totality and not as just a quick little throw in there. Oh, I see you down. Hey, you're looking good today. This is not going to work. You can do better than that.
Yeah. I mean, you take it in a marriage. I mean, I'm speaking from a wife's perspective now. You can maybe speak from a husband's. But from a wife's perspective is, your husband often feels like he can't do that, or the pressure gets too much, or he's not valued, or there's a whole lot of negative stuff that your husbands have to deal with, not only from a home perspective, but from an outside world perspective. I mean, I take it with you when you started your business. There was a couple of times that you wanted to quit. I mean, sitting here tonight in front of a screen like this is not who Henry is at all.
No, this is a bit of a challenge.
This is a huge challenge for him. But why is he sitting here? Why are you sitting here, baby?
I don't know. Do I have to answer that?
Yeah, you have to answer that.
There's a few reasons I'm sitting here. I'm sitting, first and foremost, because I believe that we as a couple have something to give back, and God's given us that platform. He's given us that knowledge. He's given us that
life experience.
Yeah, that experience, and it's part of being obedient. Yeah, that's probably the primary reason I'm sitting here. But why are we there? We're talking about love languages.
Would you have done this on your own?
Oh, no.
So why did you do that?
Hey, why did I do it?
Because it's my bright idea.
Yes, because your bright idea, and you kept saying, you can do it. I'm like, I can't do it. Anyway, here I am doing it because of the encouragement and the motivation that my wife gave me. On speaking those positive things, talking about me, not just about, oh, you can be in front of a camera. No, about telling me that I have the wisdom, that I have the knowledge, that I have the experience to be able to speak into certain people's lives. And if I didn't have my biggest fan telling me that, I wouldn't think it would be possible. So words of affirmation is you being your spouse's biggest fan.
That's what it is.
And telling everyone, including your spouse.
Because sometimes they don't believe it. They've got that doubt. And as much as we deny it, but the person sitting next to you is the person that knows you the best. And they believe in you the most, because if one fails, the other fails. If one succeeds, the other succeeds. So ultimately, if you look at it, is you have your spouse's best interest at heart, both from a selfish perspective, but also from a marriage perspective. So what you say to your spouse is not going to be to the detriment of them, because if I hurt Henry, I hurt myself, and vice versa.
True. So anyway, if we look at this as well from a conflict perspective, when you are in conflict with your spouse whose love language is words of affirmation, what you need to do is speak words that build security, that make them feel secure in your relationship, in themselves, and in the environment.
Why? Because affirmation is their love language.
Yeah.
So the minute there's been a conflict situation and you've broken them down because of the conflicts, they've broken each other down, you're going to have to build your spouse up, because that's their love language. Whereas if the other one was the gifting, you'd give them a gift, they wouldn't need the affirmation. The gift would actually do exactly the same as the affirmation. What I do want to add in here is, we didn't speak about the gifts, we didn't get it there. If, for example, this couple that we knew, I have to say this because this is how we get it wrong. So her primary love language was gifts.
Yeah.
But every time her husband would go out and buy her a gift, she would freak out because it was not in their budget. And he would like, I don't understand this love languages thing, because the love language says gifts, but every time I buy her a gift, it's incorrect. And this went on for years, that they used to fight every time he tried to fulfill her love language. And eventually what came out is she didn't want the expensive gifts because that would cause anxiety with her. Yeah. So if we take it to words of affirmation, is it needs to be the right place of affirmation, and that's why it can't be fake. We had a situation where I at one point said to Henry, I wish you would affirm me. This was quite a few years ago. And he was like, but I do affirm you. And I'm like, no, you don't. And he was like, but I just did 10 minutes ago. Well, I didn't even hear it.
And I reminded her, I said, 10 minutes ago, this is a conversation we had, and this is what I said. And she's, yeah, that was, but I didn't hear it.
Didn't hear it. Why? Because for me, how it needed to be delivered was important. So just taking these love languages and assuming them for yourself, how it needs to be executed, you're going to get it very wrong. You need to actually sit with your spouse and do the test and figure out what it is, and then say to them, if it is gifts, for example, what does that look like? If it's words of affirmation, how does that sound, and how do I deliver it? Because with Henry and my expectation was that he needed to sit without any confusion around us, look me in the eye, and then give me the affirmation. If he just gave it in passing down the passage, I wouldn't even hear it. Never mind receive it, which means he's working so hard to affirm me. In the meantime, I haven't heard any of them, not one. Yeah. So the delivery and the what is very important.
Yeah. And then we move on to the third.
Deeds of service.
Yeah.
It's any act that eases the burden of responsibility. That's really nicely put.
That's very nicely put.
Deeds of service.
So it could be the dishes. It could be changing the tire on the car. It could be cleaning the garage for me.
Yeah, okay.
But it is anything. If your spouse's love language is deeds of service, it means that when you are doing something that they are responsible for doing, so you take that off their hands, which is a difficult thing. Sometimes deeds of service, we do for our spouse the things we like doing. So I'll say to Lundy, no, don't worry, I'll cook tonight. You can have the night off. I enjoy cooking, so it's not really a deeds of service. And it's not, she also enjoys cooking. Yeah, so for her, it's like, okay, whatever. It doesn't really mean anything.
Ironically, I think right now in the lockdown, deeds of service for women is probably right at the top. I know for me, because about 2 weeks ago, I felt very alone doing the dishes, the washing, the everything. Everybody was helping. But at one point, I went to the wash line and I had to fetch all this washing. And I felt alone. And I went to Henry and I said, you know what? I need some help. And he said, babe, but I didn't even know you went to the wash line. but isn't that always the problem? We assume that our spouses
Yeah.
need to know where we expect the help. And my bad. But we spoke about it. Now, Henry knows the expectation that I have, but I also know that I need to say to him, babe, I'm going to go and fetch the washing now. Then he knows I'm asking for help.
Because it's not my nature. It's not something I'm good at. I'm good at many things, but going to fetch washing or hang washing up, I don't even think of it. It's not that I don't want to do it. It's not that I have anything against it and I think it's her role and she none of that. It just, in my head, it doesn't happen. So for me to even remember I must do that is a mission. So we came to the agreement. I said, I want to help you. I truly want to help you, but I need help to help you. So when you go, just say, come with me, and I will do it gladly.
And he does.
And that's the difference there with these deeds of service. It needs to, but sometimes if that's your love language, these are difficult ones because sometimes you do things and other people aren't even aware that you're doing it. And those things are more than likely the things that you wished other people would do.
But you can't isolate those until you've had that discussion. So when we look at conflict with somebody that's love languages, deeds of service, is very importantly is to make the behavioral changes through requested through conflict. So for example, if let's take the washing line, washing with ours, it wasn't a conflict situation, but it's a good example, is it might have ended up in a huge argument where I said, you don't ever help me, and I'm the maid in the house, and I'm always having to go and fetch the washing all by myself, and yada, yada, yada. And I was angry, which I wasn't. He automatically picked up that was a trigger. So in order to help with that love language during a conflict situation is for him to make changes. So to sit down with me and say, well, let me know if you need the help. And then do that. Because the first time that I say, I'm going to the wash line, I need some help, and he doesn't come, could you imagine the blow up then? Because, that was
Changing behavior is very important, especially around deeds of service. Physical touch.
Nice one.
My favorite is, I like touching physical.
But physical touch for the guys out there, it's a non-sexual.
I don't like physical touch.
Non-sexual touch that reinforces your presence. So it's holding hands. It's holding hands. It's long hugs. And it's gentle caressing. It's kissing. It's massaging. Oh, I like massages, baby. Non-sexual massages. No, you can see.
Okay, now this is where it gets very funny, because both of physical touch is very high on both of our love languages. Lundy's idea of physical touch and my idea are totally different.
Completely different.
Her sitting with me, lying on my lap on the couch, watching a program, like she's in heaven.
In heaven.
I can shoot myself. Okay, no, that's maybe a bit excessive. It's got no link to me whatsoever. It fills absolutely nothing in my tank.
Cuddling in bed.
Yeah, why? You're in bed to sleep. So we've got different ideas, even though both of our physical touch is high on our love languages. And if you know us, you'll know that we constantly close to each other because it is so high. But her idea of physical touch as a love language and my idea of physical touch as a love language are very different. So these are things where she expects me to fulfill her physical touch, and I have the expectation that she fulfills mine.
So what's yours?
You know that part where it says non-sexual?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I disagree with that.
But that's not physical touch.
Yeah. Eh?
That's intimacy. It's not physical touch.
One in the same.
We'll do that that topic, not next
Intimacy.
week. Yes.
Are we going to cover intimacy?
We're going to cover
I
intimacy.
don't think these people are ready for intimacy.
No, we'll do another one next week, and we'll discuss the next one. We need to iron some things out here first.
Okay.
A physical touch, babe, is not intimacy.
Okay.
Sexual intimacy. Sexual intimacy. It is intimacy, but not sexual.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
But I think you guys get the point. That the ease, those long hugs, gentle caressing, kisses, massages, and also intimacy.
Okay. So tell me, what is yours?
Anyway.
What is your physical touch?
A massage will be very good.
Okay.
Anyway.
Non-sexual.
Can we get over this? Okay. So anyway, after conflict.
Just confirming it's non-sexual.
Yes. Can I have a massage?
Okay.
After a conflict.
It's winter now. It's cold.
Sorry, everyone. That's my takeaway.
Okay.
After conflict, one of the best things to do with your spouse, if their priority is physical touch, is hold each other without saying a word.
Nonsense.
Cuddle together in bed, whether it's naked or clothed, it's up to you. But moving on. All right.
Non-sexual.
And the last, but definitely not the least, love language is quality time.
Non-sexual.
My word, everything's going to be non-sexual suddenly. You can see the issue.
Okay.
Quality time, focused and undivided attention spent together.
Yes. Yes. Without the TV, without the laptop, without the cell phone.
And sometimes in front of the TV.
Yes. Okay.
Depends what the language is.
It depends what the language. Because for me, sitting in front of the TV with you holding me, I see as quality time. Yeah. You don't.
I don't.
Not at all.
Don't. That to me is not quality time. But then again, for me, quality time is for us to go sit, which we can't now, but sit at a restaurant that's on the beach, have a drink, and watch the sunset. Yeah,
that's quality
that
time
to
for
me is like the ultimate quality time. Yeah. Sitting on the couch together, I've got no interest in that whatsoever, but I do it because that's very important for Landy. Okay, but one of the, if you want to look at rule of thumb, turn off the electronics, go for a walk, plan date nights. We just on date nights, we at one stage said, no, that's it. We'll go on a date night every week. Every Friday night was date night.
It was Thursday nights.
Was it Thursday?
It was Thursday night, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. It was Thursday. A little while ago. We can't remember which day.
6 years ago. Yeah.
But we decided every Thursday night we're going to do date night.
Okay.
And it didn't have to be restaurants and this. It could have just, it was picnics or it was whatever. It wasn't big, but it was date night every Thursday night. 2 months into this, date night was the most boring thing that we could think of doing. All right, because there was no, it was a habit. It was a, we must do this every Thursday. That didn't work for us. Maybe for you it works. For us, no ways. It didn't work. So we needed to think of different ideas there. And funny enough, after that, there was quite a long period before we went on a date night again, because we were actually anti-date nights for a while because of it. So don't get there. All right. And then, I think the key here is it can't become a habit. So whatever you're doing in terms of quality time, it mustn't become a habit, and both people must enjoy it. Because one of the other things is doing a hobby together is quality time. It may be quality time to one of the spouses, but ensure that what you're doing is something that both enjoy and not just one enjoy, because otherwise it's going to become an effort. A chore. Yeah, it's going to become a chore for the other person to do it. Going for walks, but I think a big one that doesn't cost any money is to have a conversation that doesn't entail the finances, the kids, and the problems. Yeah, the household. The household stuff. So for me,
one of my quality times is to be able to sit with Henry and just have a conversation about us, but also about something totally different.
And that reminds me, if you're sitting there in quality time and you're thinking, how do I do this? We sit and we don't know what to talk to each other. We go on date nights. We have no clue what to say. You hop onto the internet and you look for date night questions.
Oh, there's loads of them and they're so funny.
They're incredible, but it's questions, conversation starters.
Yeah.
It's questions which you ask each other to learn more about each other. And it's so incredible. It is those questions that you used to ask when you first had the love drug.
Yep.
Those questions about what's your favorite color?
Who was your favorite primary school teacher?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
I can't remember. Yeah, I do.
Do you?
I
Oh,
do.
good for you.
I do.
I don't remember.
But it's those hard questions.
Yeah.
We did it the one night. We sat there until the restaurant closed.
Yes, we did. We did.
Yeah.
Eventually, they brought us our bill, and we said, "No, can we have coffees?" I said, "Sorry, but we are closed. Not closing, closed. You need to leave now."
Yeah.
Anyway, but those can catch up your time. Yeah, those questions. Yes, you don't know. There's some of them that you're going to read the question and you think, "Hey, I'm not ready to put this down yet." Then don't. You skip over it. You don't have to ask them all, but some incredible take turns. Who goes first on those?
It's really awesome.
Anyway, so how do I deal with conflict? After conflict, make eye contact. Remember, quality time is about the connection, the quality time. Make eye contact. Active listening with empathy.
Yeah.
So listen and absorb. We'd like to say mirror. Yeah. And don't interrupt. Don't interrupt.
So remember,
let them talk.
Somebody that's got a high priority on quality time is wanting that connection, as Henry mentioned. But if you are just fobbing them off, remember you're talking to their love language. If you're just fobbing them off or you're moving on too quickly from a conflict situation, you are disregarding where they fill up their love tank.
Yeah.
So when you look at their quality, when you look at their love language, remember both from a positive and from a negative. When something goes wrong, is speak to that immediately to overcome that conflict situation. Yeah.
I think what's very evident as we've gone, and we've said it over and over again, is a lot of people do these love languages and say, "Hey, my love language is quality time. Our relationship is sorted." No. The conversation starts once you know what your love language is.
Yeah.
Because now I need to, first of all, do some exploring on myself, saying, okay, if my love language is quality time, how does that look to me? And once I understand how it looks, then I can tell my partner, my spouse, how they must give it to me.
Yeah.
I remember a story about this couple that the husband went through major effort because her primary was quality time. So he goes through this effort. He packs a picnic basket, wine in it, the whole lot. They go down to the beach and they take a walk on the beach. Beautiful, and they come and they sit on a blanket and they sip on the wine, and then
champagne.
Oh, was it champagne?
And biscuits and cheese.
It was beautiful. And on the way home, she said to him, "I really didn't enjoy that."
He was devastated
because that wasn't her picture of quality time. All she was thinking is, I've just had my hair done and there the wind's blowing and there's sand everywhere. And I can relate to that. For me, sand doesn't, me and sand don't mix. So understand before you go through all that effort. Understand what your spouse needs when you're talking about their love language. The main thing is that the starting point is knowing what their love language is. That's not the finishing point. Once you know it, it's time to have those deep, meaningful conversations again, where you're finishing each other's sentences, where you're talking till 3 o'clock in the morning, because here's a subject where you can learn your spouse's heart. You can hear from them what makes them tick, what excites them. What's their heartbeat? Very awesome. Really love it. Anyway.
So if you guys want to do the quiz, if you go to 5lovelanguages.com.
The number 5,
number 5
lovelanguages.com.
And you'll see there's a couples quiz, there's a children's quiz, a teens quiz, and a singles quiz. In terms of the children's quiz, I would almost say take it from the age of about 8 or 9. Before that is too young. But you can actually figure out what your children's love languages are, which is really awesome. And then in terms of when they become the teens, it's very difficult with teens. What we found is because they've got hormonal stuff, so they jump all the time. But it's good to know.
Now with them, instead of once a year, you do it like every week.
Every week, because that
maybe
changes.
3 times a day.
Glory.
I don't know. but it changes. No, but you will get a general idea.
Yes.
And like we said right in the beginning, is that we often find our love languages changes because, let's say, my primary is quality time. I tell Lindy, she now spends a lot of time on quality time. Now their tank is full. So now I'm going to be focusing on which tank is empty.
Yeah.
And that's why I redo it, because that's when it changes. That's when I get a different love language. That's my priority. What we tend to then happen is we take the foot off the pedal on that one, because now that one's sorted and we focus on that one and we forget about that one, and it shifts again. Yes, it's very difficult to focus on all 5, but where you're putting priority, when you shift that priority, don't totally forget about all the others. What often happens is people forget that there's 5 love languages, and just because I've got a primary 1 and 2 doesn't mean the other 3 aren't important to me. They're just not as important. Right? They've taken a back seat, or my my tank is full there, or whatever the case. That's our take on it. That's how we've kind of experienced it.
With ourselves and with couples that we've worked with.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Questions?
So, we want to thank you for listening to us. So now I'm going to open it up to questions. And while you you want to introduce next? That's what I was about to do. You see. And while you guys are thinking of those questions or getting ready to type them, or even turn on your mics and cameras so we can see you and speak to us about them, next week, the title of our talk is going to be Rust Remover for Your Marriage. Where your marriage has become stagnant or just too mundane and too normal and too rusty.
Moving so lekker.
Yeah. Let's look at ways to get those squeaky parts loosened up and working again. Some Q20. Put some Q20, some silicone spray or something on there, just to lighten it up a bit. All right. So, yes, we would like to thank each and every one of you for joining us for another marriage hour. It's been fun for us, that's for sure. And we trust and we hope that it's been fun for you and that you've learned something.
How on earth did you figure out that independence and dependence were your needs when you met?
That's a long road that you need to walk to get to understand. It came from a lot of introspection, but it also came from a lot of discussion and a lot of fulfillment. It didn't just one day we woke up and said, oh, we know what's going on here. It was really a case where we said, okay, why was I attracted to you? What was it that you had that I needed? And some of the stuff is when you start digging into childhood, you start digging into past hurts and wounds and that. A lot of it you want to be kind of protected. We covered a bit of this on the very first session when we said start talking about those triggers and those things that have got you. Because what you initially had was, I wanted a very independent woman. And when she was independent, I didn't like it eventually, so it started irritating. Those kind of things. Lundy wanted someone that would take control. When I took control, she didn't like it. Yeah,
became a trigger.
Yeah, so it became a trigger. We explored the trigger, and then we kind of explored what it was.
And then we joined the dots. There's been a lot of those joining the dots. These are just some of the ones that we are sharing with you. But when we sit with and we when we coach couples, we uncover, because generally it shows as a trigger, as a frustration, the trigger. But then you go down the rabbit hole and you figure out where that root is. Remember the very first moving from frustration to harmony? Yeah. We spoke about moving down the trigger down to what the root cause is. The root cause will reveal why the trigger was there, which gave Henry and I our independence and dependence. Yeah. Yeah, but it was a whole lot of conversation and digging.
Yeah. Sometimes it's very apparent.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes we look at couples that are together and we say, okay, we know why you together.
Exactly why.
Other times it's a lot more than that. There's a lot of digging. There's a lot of figuring out that one needs to do.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Just a quick comment. So we thought you were super funny tonight together.
Thank you.
I would love to be a fly on the wall when you go off the edge.
It's the same on air and off air now. I promise you.
Look at those faces, yo. There's little that we know, yo.
I think just I think what makes these sessions so lovely is your realness and your authenticity, and we just want to honor you for that, and I think that's beautiful. And just a topic maybe is kind of a I don't know, accumulation of some topics that come up as for rabbit holes. Maybe one evening just do like rabbit hole things, you know, because I think one can fast forward quite quickly in your own relationship. Yeah. So just a suggestion.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
You can wear the bunny ears, Henry.
I've actually got some in some cup. No, I actually chucked them away.
So that was scary.
No. I'll tell you why I had them. Was a friend of mine's
she was a bachelorette.
Her bachelorette, and she did so I had bunny ears, which you still bought for me.
I did.
Yeah.
I remember those.
Yeah. But I threw them away. Sorry, Adele.
You know, so Henry, those are the non-sexual bunny ears, okay?
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Non-sexual. Yes.
Thanks for clarifying that. I was a bit confused there. Clearly, we need to go for the non-sexual version of everything now.
No, not when we do intimacy.
And then we go for the sexual version.
Then it's sexual and it's intimacy.
So next week?
No, not next week.
Oh, not next week.
Not next
Sorry,
week.
guys.
No. Because then we'll have the whole church on here and we can't do all of them.
Okay.
Yes. The minute you say sexual intimacy, everybody's here because...
You think so?
I think so. We saved that one for last.
Just on another note, we recently had just a rewatch on the movie Hope Springs.
Yes.
Really such a lovely movie for any couples being stuck somewhere. So highly recommendable. Yeah, Hope Springs. It is available on
maybe it's worth another look.
Definitely watch it again. Thanks, Adele.
Thank you so much.
And Tinas and Ari, thank you very much for the encouragement. I'm glad I gave you a good laugh. I needed to laugh today.
Did you need to laugh?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
Oh, good thing you did. Well, guys, if there's no more questions, we truly appreciate this time that you spend with us, that you listen to us, that you allow us to speak into your marriages, into your homes, into your lives, into your families. We thank you for that. We hope to see you next week, you, your friends, your family, everyone else. Thanks, Skulk and here. So remember next week, rust remove your marriage. When you're getting all those rust spots off, those spots that have become stagnant, how to do it, where to focus, when to focus, and which scrubbing brush to use.
Awesome. We're looking forward to it.
Great, guys. Thank you very much.
Have an awesome
evening. Good night.
Next week. Bye.